leadership consultant and founder of Emancipated Human, Libertarian Party statesman, yoga and meditation teacher, Luis Fernando Mises.
Thank you. Welcome. So, I'll just tell you a little bit of a opening story. I came and I didn't have any cufflinks for my shirt. And you know, who's the man that will always have cufflinks in his luggage, right? So I texted Jeffrey Tucker and I said, man, I don't want to spend $100 right now. Do you have an extra pair I can borrow? And he said, sure, absolutely, just come by. So it was like 10 in the morning, he was just waking up. And, hold on, something's happening here. So there you go. You know, so I guess I can actually tell you that I'm probably the only one that has ever seen him in boxers. Everybody always sees him, you know, really fancy with a bow tie and everything, but I got to see him in a more, I guess, raw way. So, you know, he opens the door, he's like, friend, please come in, and he's wearing boxers. I'm like, so we sit on the bed, and he pulls out this big box, and he pulls out probably like 10 pairs of them. And he's like, yeah, choose whichever one you like. And suddenly I start freaking out, because like, you know, it's like so many to choose from. So I went for the ANCAP flag that he had. It's like, yeah, those will do. He had some hamburger ones too. You know, his love for the golden arches. So that was, I was like, well, I'm not gonna push the envelope that much. I'll just wear the normal anarchist kind. So with that said, I'm a little bit of a geek, and I like Michio Kaku and all sorts of other scientists. And the talk that I want to give today is pretty ambitious, and there's so many things going on. So it will be, I'm going to touch on so many things, and then they're going to go in together, and you'll see how it makes sense. I call it string theory, just kind of not worrying about the IP and just borrowing the whole idea of everything connected. So this is how to create laissez-faire society, laissez-faire world. Now, I want to emphasize the idea that I don't want to use any words like anarchy or libertarian or any of that, and that has a purpose. The purpose is a lot of times when you approach someone and you tell them about libertarianism, they think, oh, it's a political thing, I don't want to hear you talk. Oh, anarchy, oh, Molotov cocktails, get out of here. So laissez-faire, that's pretty cool. And actually one of the books, I was talking to Doc Casey, and he said that he became an anarchist after he read Market for Liberty by the Tan Hills, and they never, ever say anarchy. It's all laissez-faire. So I was like, that's an excellent deal. So with that said, you may wonder, you know, so who's this dude in front of me? I am a leadership development consultant. I do that for a living. And just to talk a little bit about that, I actually get paid to teach voluntarism in the corporate world. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So, I got it. So what does that look like? We don't call it anarchy or voluntarism or anything like that. It's called servant leadership. What we mainly do is we help, we start with the executive level, C-level, you know, CEOs, CFOs, CTOs, and all of that, because if they don't buy into this, there's very little chance that they're going to want to endorse that with the entire company. So the pyramid of power, you know, the boss on top telling everybody what to do, and then everybody, you know, your boss is kind of breathing on your neck and all that. Nobody likes that, right? That's why there's a lot of flack against capitalism, because they're like, you know, you're just slaving away and whatever. So we come in, kind of like ayahuasca-like, and fix and clean and do all that cool stuff, and we switch the pyramid of power upside down. Now, this has so many meanings, but one of them, the one that we actually talk about during classes, is the boss is at the very bottom of that structure. Quite a switch, right? So now his or her job is to remove blockages. So the worker can actually do his or her job and be trusted. And this is pretty cool because the supervisor, the leader, gets to focus on higher level stuff, which is what they get paid the big bucks to do. And they empower the individuals, the workers, to be able to just do their work. So basically, trust them, leave them alone, they'll do their work. That's why you hired them, because you thought they were good enough, right? So the result of this is people are happier, they make more money, and that I'll just tell you something. When I go to Starbucks, and I love them so much, when I walk in, what do you know about Starbucks, right? You walk in, they know your name, they know how you want things and what you like, so that makes you want to go back there and do it more. There's a lot of other entities that do that, like Southwest Airlines, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So that is, I guess, the bread and butter of my work, and I don't call it work. That's actually my passion. That's my purpose. We also mimic in the consulting firm. We do this same concept in our own company. So my boss tells me, I don't really care. Like, I get to work from home a lot of times. He's like, I don't care if you take a 3-4 hour lunch, if you're with your kids and you want to cook and clean, as long as you do what you need to do. I don't really give a damn when you do it. So we do probably, 35 seminars every year. So it's kind of like almost once a week we are presenting all of this to a bunch of corporations. Now, a lot of people always say, corporations suck and whatever. Like, I see the complete opposite end almost at all times. And that's why I'm always so happy to hear about big business, because they're actually doing a lot of cool things. And I'll get into that a little deeper in a few seconds. I'm also a certified yoga instructor, 500 hours. Very soon I realized that makes no money, so I left it behind. I still do my stretches at home, and I also work with entheogens. I personally hold ceremonies for San Pedro cactus. That guy, because of San Pedro, I actually became an anarchist. I used to be a libertarian, and after some San Pedro things, and I'll just tell you the one that turned me into, I guess, anarchist, I was thinking, gee, a lot of people dislike money. San Pedro, the purpose of this ceremony is to learn about money. Can we just not get rid of it, and then everybody will be happier? So I drink, get into the tent, and that San Pedro is way, way, way longer than ayahuasca. Probably 9-10 hours later, I rolled out with the equivalent of a master's of economics and monetary policy. And I was like, holy Jesus. All right, so, and then I got out, and my friend that's my teacher of shamanism, I was telling him all of this, and he's like, yeah. So he knew all of this, right? And I'm like, wait. Yeah, that's, whenever you get into this stuff, you get to see natural law, you get to see everything that is connected, and that's just the thing that makes sense. So that was the very first thing, and how I got into this. Now, moving a little bit forward, on another ayahuasca ceremony, I was looking for my purpose, and I asked ayahuasca, so help me out. I kind of know what I do, but what is it that I really need to look at in myself to be able to fix or to do in myself, fix myself and help the world? And two things came. My purpose and mission was to empower and be present and to help others. So that is the song, the Cairo, that I sing in life. It opened me up to be able to be present and to empower. And by doing this, with the leadership development and just at any aspect of life, because servant leadership is something that you can use anywhere and everywhere. I also write for the Dollar Vigilante. I actually have a pretty cool gig there because I get to interview people, expats all over the world, and they tell me about their experience wherever they are, and I Skype with them. We transcribe it, and then it's on the newsletter. So, just getting people some ideas if they want to travel, move, just visit, whatever. So that's that. I also host Anarchast in Spanish. Everybody knows Anarchast in English with Jeff, obviously. He contacted me, said, hey, you should start the Spanish one. I was like, all right. So it's kind of a newish concept. So we're still kind of fishing out for some cool people to be there. And obviously, Emancipated Human, that's the name that came to me after I was able to receive my purpose and passion and all of that, the awakening, Satori, or whatever you want to call it. So that's me. the abstract, I figured that since I'm going to be with a bunch of brainy people, I would rather do this kind of like scientific method, so we have the abstract, basically what I'm going to talk about, and then what we talked about, like that fashion. So I have a string theory of sorts. Every issue in human relationship unequivocally goes back to parenting. And I'm going to take you on that. Whether it's resourceful or unresourceful coaching that was received as you were growing up, it will manifest thereafter unless awareness is presented. Then, when awareness is presented, it will be either enhanced if it's been resourceful, or be stopped if it's unresourceful. And this affects every aspect of our lives. So in other words, you cannot hurt yourself continuously once you're aware of it. But like Macy was saying, a lot of people do all of this out of unconscious behavior. And that's, I have the belief after, a bunch of San Pedro ayahuasca meditation and whatnot, and just life introspection, that most people are good. And we're going to explore this. So I want to take you on the most difficult journey. Hopefully I'll have enough time, because like I was telling you, this is pretty big. This is the journey from your mind to your heart. Those 14, 16, 17 inches is the longest trip you will ever take, ever. Probably the most difficult, but it's the most important and worth it. You're going to be able to connect these two, and once you're able to do that, the entire world outside transforms. And that's what we're going to do. First, I'm going to talk about the self-knowledge continuum. And out of the consulting firm, I've been able to, they called us in for two different reasons. One of them, the business is already doing excellent, and they're making lots of money, and people are happy, and they're saying, how can we get higher? How can we do more, right? So everybody wants those kinds of clients, right? Then the second level, they say, well, we are in really difficult situations. Can you help us out? So whatever there is, that's a map of reality that is in autopilot. What I was telling you, the coaching that you receive from your parents and all of that, and your surroundings, that's, if you don't question it, if you just keep living life, that's your map of reality in autopilot. From then, there's a lot of people that say, well, let's learn more, and they read and they learn, and they may actually do entheogens, but they don't put to practice what they learned. So the easy part is actually reading, learning, doing ayahuasca. That's easy. For as difficult as like the trip is, that's the easy part. If you don't put that into your life, you just wasted a bunch of money, right? Now, self-awareness. Most people rarely work above this line. The next line is the self-actualization. And this does not mean that you're home free by any stretch of the imagination. It just means that you know yourself, you know your shit, you know your patterns, and how when you're aware of your patterns, they don't just change immediately. You're like, okay, this is what I need to deal with. These are my handicaps. This is what I learned that is not resourceful. And then you move towards how you can get to a higher level of coherence. Now, this is a game changer, because your awareness grows from me to us to all of us. And that's pretty cool, because you realize that everything is interconnected. When you do this, you actually think before you do things, because you're like, gosh, if I do this, this may hurt here and here and here. So you have this foresight, this insight of sorts that prevents you from actually doing shitty stuff a lot of times, because you're able to see the repercussions. So that's a cool place to be. And it also, when you happen to mess up, and I do that often, my wife tells me, you messed up here, and I was like, gosh, yeah, like, I may argue a little bit, but it's like, no, yeah, I guess you're right. Like you're not trying to get off the hook. And on the peaceful parenting part, we've empowered our children also to, like, we're not boss and subordinate. We are kind of like, we see them as a trust, and we are the fiduciary. So we're just taking care of them until they're able to get on their own, right? And empower them as much as possible. So my daughter is pretty good at also giving me feedback. And one of the, I guess, awesome disadvantages is when they're like so aware and smart, they see logical fallacies in my speech or my behavior, and they bring it up. It's like, oh shit, yeah, you're right, time to change. So then you go from hating feedback, why are you telling me this, to like, thank you, I appreciate that. Feedback is a gift. You have to ask for feedback as much as you possibly can. And that's one of the places of self-actualized people. You ask for feedback, you take it, and you try to do something about it. Now, there's always people that are just nitpicky, and they're going to try to blah, blah, blah. You know what you take, you know what you don't take. And we're going to continue with the self-actualized. As I was telling you, this is just the beginning. Now, are we doing this again? Okay, so the nuclear family is where everything, that's where we're going to start right now, because I think that's what makes sense for us, you know? The nuclear family was something that started in the 17th century. It was influenced by theocratic governments and by the church. It's not perfect, right? It was mainly created for wealth arrangement and not for love. You see all the movies, you know, from Robin Hood and all those stories back in the day, that when they actually love each other, they didn't necessarily marry, they just live off the land or whatever. Now, we started broken because it was just for the purpose of garnishing power and money. It was not necessarily an arrangement for love. So self-expression was limited. You were supposed to keep the status quo. You're not supposed to. Did you guys ever see Alice in Wonderland, the newish one? You know, whenever she's like, everybody's so square, and she's flamboyant and different, and she wants to change the world and go to China and trade with them, right? So she was seen as a freaking weirdo. Why are you doing these things? Why are you're a woman, right? You should just go back to the kitchen, maybe give some booby milk to the little guy or something. We were not allowed to be in touch with our emotions. You know, suck it up. Why? So this is kind of interesting because it prevents us from fully living. We stay mostly in our head, primarily on the left side of our hemisphere. That's where we live. We're intellectuals, and we get really happy about being intellectuals, right? Well, that's not a bad thing, but it's an incomplete thing. We move on. The sexual life was dysfunctional due to shame. All that Puritanism, it prevented us from fully expressing that. And that's one of the most important things in life. When I remember growing up, my mom told me, you know, that's part of your happiness, so you better take care of your pee-pee. I was like, all right, Mom. So washing it and whatever. Circumcision, that's also something that creates a lot of trauma for females and for males. Hopefully, you know, a lot of people are not doing that anymore. It seems kind of troglodyte and just old-fashioned bullshit. Physical punishment instead of discipline. Now, this is something that hopefully most people agree here, that we don't spank kids, right? Now, every time that, like, you know, we're on Facebook and I post something about peaceful parenting, they're like, yeah, but like if you don't spank him, you're not going to teach them discipline. Well, not really. Discipline means to make disciples. It does not mean hit them at all. Now, we've been practicing this for probably, I guess, since our little girl was, I don't know, 6, 5, something around that neighborhood. So we've been on that road for another 6 years. We're not perfect. We don't spank. We have some heated conversations, but we allow that, like, you know, connection of two-way street of interaction. It's a dialogue of sorts. You know, we were talking about nuclear family. Women were second-class citizens. Macy touched on something that was pretty important, the evolutionary stance of humankind, going from the dark ages, moving into light. Now, that, you know, we lived on the rigid and religious canon. So that was 17th century. We are evolving, and it's going to continue to go up. I don't want to get ahead of myself. The default condition of humanity was $1 a day for centuries for 90% of the people. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine living on $1 a day? That's crazy, right? I mean, your Starbucks this morning probably costed you 200 pesos. We would operate mainly in the root chakra, self-centeredness and domination, mainly and primarily out of fear. And that's where the root chakra, the dysfunctional side of it, lives. I'm afraid, so I need to hoard as much as possible. I'm afraid. I need to be self-centered. And the way to be able to take down this Trump wall is through love, right? We would pass on the same map of reality to our progeny, both resourceful and unresourceful traits. So if you were, I don't know, a blacksmith, you would teach your kid how to do the same trade, and you would, smack him if they did it wrong and whatever. You were mimicking the theocratic example of dysfunctional hierarchy of do it or else, So I guess I was spanked when I was little, and I never liked it. So I try, to do that to my kids. We hit a big milestone. With the emergence of early capitalism, the nuclear family actually became a viable social unit. So we are using a concept that was created just for, the benefit of some wealthy individuals to actually making sense and finding that people were getting out of poverty, out of that $1 a day, into something better. And I think Jeffrey Tucker was talking about this a little bit last night. Adam Smith, The Wealth of the Nations, 1776-ish. He asked something kind of cool. He said, why are some societies more prosperous than others? Regardless of the availability of natural resources, it's about freedom to trade. That's it. When we're free to trade, we become richer. And yes, profit is subjective. So maybe you find it subjective to go to, actually we have a, what is that called, where you just gamble your money here? Casino, thank you. I had a brain for a second. And you spend $100, and to you that's fun, and you had some good time. That's profitable, right? So moving on, central planning cannot do this, as you've seen, as you've noticed. Moving on, after this early emergence of capitalism, we move upward. We're operating on the second chakra. We become more passionate. We start reproducing more. You see the Earth's population keeps going up. We're not as scared. We're not as sick. We're finding ways to heal. We're finding ways to move upward in the spiral. One of the things is that power has been misused because we lack leadership skills. Remember that do it or else kind of thing? So we went from fields to teams to supervisory positions, and we did not have the way, the knowledge, or even the idea of how to tell people how to do things in a nice way. We were just like, God damn it, do it. Step aside, let me do it. You're too stupid to do it. We don't take the time to teach. When we don't take the time, we don't take the time to teach, we are always drawn into that place where we feel that nobody knows how to do this but me, and it's a downward spiral where we're just going to end up burned out. So, do you remember what we were telling you about the theocratic stuff? So that mimics also the family structure from the 17, 18, and maybe still at some point, you have the dad, and then second-class citizen, the mom, and the kids were something that you sent to somebody else to, breastfeed them and to raise them. And even sometimes now, a lot of people have kids and they just send them to indoctrination camps, schools. And because I get out of my hair, you kid, you're just a kid, you're whatever. So we continue that fractal of the theocratic organization. One of the important things that we do, and we had the conscious decision to cut our family income a little bit down so we could have the opportunity to homeschool our kids. And my wife and my mom and the little guys, they work together and they do a lot of that. I do some too when I'm not at work. So I think that's one of the most important things to do, and we're just going around, as you can see, greed. Because we started broken, we grew up in fear that there's not enough. And that's what you see on people that are looking for power. And for as much as I hate to do this with my hero, here's where I disagree with Jeffrey Tucker. I don't think power is necessarily a bad thing. Power is only a bad thing because we're not empowered already, and we're seeking to fulfill that need in unconscious ways, and therefore we hurt ourselves and other people. The market had not yet expanded enough to provide to the masses. Imagine, Adam Kokesh was in my hometown, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, and he said something that just baked my noodle. He said, imagine the day when 3D printers Do you remember this? You can put a ring that is a 3D printer and a chip on your brain, and you're just printing stuff out of your fingertips. I was like, whoa. You know, like when you get to that point, right now with the 3D printers, what you can do, imagine what, the stuff that Adam's talking about, that's pretty amazing. I want to be able to do that, right? When that happens, the whole structure, like Walmart will disappear. Hopefully Amazon won't, because I like stuff delivered into my house. So that's pretty cool. Sacrifices were made to be able to get some security. Tucker talked about this a little bit too. Some people were ostracized for following their heart. Again, Alice in Wonderland example. How dare you to be happy? How dare you to follow your dreams and desires? Who are you? I couldn't do it. Why should you be able to, right? You've heard that over and over again. So we are moving a little bit higher, learning but not integrating. And the front seat example. And my little kids, they're usually, fighting for the front seat. It's illegal, but we just do it because we're anarchists and we don't care. So one of my little kids said, hey, I was, I think, 10 when I was allowed to be in the front seat. In other words, whenever you got brave enough to not care about what the government says. How come little guy, he's 8, how come he gets to do it now? So then that's whenever I was explaining that our default is the primal instinct to feel and think that there's only one pie. It's okay if he's in the front seat when he's 8. My mother always told me, and my parents are a huge reason, why I'm anarchist. My mom said, be happy for others' achievements and success stories as if they were your own. This has been one of the things that just stays stuck in my mind. When somebody else succeeds, I feel happy because it's like, and this was shown to me in ayahuasca, you can only go so high by yourself. And the higher you are, it's kind of like being in a tent. You're still having to pull people from down here. You cannot go higher because all of these guys are down here. To be able to get higher, you have to go down and uplift those people and empower them. So, another thing about my mom, she said, I'll do anything you want me to. I was going to do that, but then you asked me to, so I'm not going to do it. So that's kind of like how she operates. She's right there. Hello, Mommy. It takes some learning and being able to learn the new operative system, being able to ditch the idea of statism. And I actually get to do that for a living, and that's pretty cool. You see this at work. It's the dog-eat-dog world. And I have a pretty cool, just a short thing to tell you. One of our clients, his name is Bob, I'm not going to give his last name away, but his paradigm is extremely different. He's always saying that I'm training my replacement. Whenever you're at work in an office, you want to be the best and just try to get that huge corner office and get all the perks and all of that. But he says, he was a business unit manager already, and he says, I don't care. I want to give everything to all of these guys because if they feel empowered and I need to move up or sideways or whatever, somebody can take my place. So you need to be able to teach as much as you can to all of those people around you. So here we're moving from victim mentality, there's not enough pie, to abundance mentality. That's a huge shift in your brain. I fix these issues for a living, like I was telling you. So we go to growing people. Getting ahead of myself. JM's example, I'm not going to give her name. I was traveling to Phoenix, and she was telling me, my friend, about how in her business, there's a lot of unreliable workers, and they sometimes are 5 minutes late for a dance class when you need to be there 5 minutes early, or they leave earlier. And she's like, gosh, I don't think that this has to be my responsibility. And I said, actually, it should be your responsibility. And this is a different take as a supervisor, and I'll tell you why. The idea is only if you want a successful business. Story time. I think it was 2.5 years ago. I got to go to a conscious capitalism conference. It was 201 CEOs. You got Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Chipotle, you name them, all the cool dudes. And basically, what they were saying is, the state sucks. They're not doing what they say they're going to do, and we're going to take over. We're building parks. We're making hospitals. We're doing more roads, and they are having that connection between extremely good profit juiciness and social responsibility because that's who I am. And by doing that and empowering other people, they are able to, raise themselves from that $1 a day. This is something pretty cool that Robert Greenleaf wrote. Acceptance of the person requires a tolerance of imperfection. Anybody could lead perfect people if there were any. And this is part of the enigma of the human nature, that the typical person, immature, stumbling, inept, lazy, is capable of great dedication and heroism if wisely led. Just let that boil in your brain for a second. This works for your kids, for your siblings, co-workers, parents. If you're able to teach others, have the patience, they're going to do great things, even if all of us are just half people. I've received so much help, and that has propelled me to, as Isaac Newton said, be on the shoulders of giants because of that mentoring, because of that help that I've received. And in a voluntarist society, the most successful people are those who serve the most. A lot of people say, well, what should I serve? What do I get in return? We're going back to first and second chakra, right? But what I've learned since I was little, thanks to my parents' example, is that the more you give, the more you get. Life is a boomerang. So whatever you throw out, you're going to receive 2, 3, 4, 10, 20 times. If I can understand that a lot of times you don't want to give because you feel, gosh, I don't have enough, right? But whenever you're able to do that and open up, I'm like kind of ayahuasca dancing now, like the ripple effect keeps moving and just changes your world. Where did we go wrong? How, if the early stages of capitalism helped us get out of poverty and black ages, where did we go wrong? Profit maximization fallacy. A lot of people may disagree, but this is actually it. Just thinking about just making money. It's narrow. We lost the human element. I don't care what you do. We had a client that said, hire them, tire them, fire them. And that was his mantra. I was like, damn. They're just disposable. And what about the human element? As a servant leader, you care for your employees as people too, not just because they work for you. In fact, they don't work for you. If you look at it, who pays for their paycheck? Customers do, clients do. You just sign it and kind of pass it on to them. It's a team, from me to us to all of us. We have evolved. The world has changed, but business has not adapted yet. We're getting there, and that's going to be the future. In the future, most enterprises are going to be servant-led, and that's actually pretty exciting. Some of my clients are on the Forbes 100 best companies to work for. Some of them are not because it actually costs money to do that, and they're just like, I don't want to pay that. But they're there. Example, Southwest Airlines. They're our clients as well. Imagine that, like all of these amazing, huge, evil, great corporations doing all the wonderful things in the world, right? They are people-oriented. I got to meet Howard Behar, the former president of Starbucks, and he wrote a book called It's Not About the Coffee. I said, Howard, what the hell? And he said, when you give to your employees, when they feel secure, when they feel empowered, they're going to turn that around because they don't feel put down. They're going to turn that around and give that back to the client, the customer. And the customer is just going to hand you their wallet. They're going to want to go there. A lot of people give me flack for going to Whole Foods, right? They call it whole paycheck. I think they're just jelly. But the whole idea about this is John Mackey's vision is to empower so many people. Nobody makes less than $11 an hour without any kind of government legislation. It's a fantastic place where you can also get benefits for health and insurance and all sorts of cool things. But his main thing is to teach conscious capitalism to as many people as are willing to hear. And that's what changes the world. That's why I want to, even if it's a little more expensive, that's why I want to spend my money there. A lot of people say, well, Wenco has organic stuff. Well, Wenco doesn't do that philosophical stuff. What we're going to see more now is that since everybody will be able to have access to do anything, any kind of business, your dollars are going to go towards the philosophical aspect of it. Who does the work that you like? So I have 5 minutes. I need to hurry. I want to save you some time. A lot of my clients are middle-aged or older. They have gone to the top of the ladder, but realized that that ladder did not have a heart. They have the yachts, they have all the money they want, but something's missing. So people start volunteering, they start finding purpose. Do you remember at the beginning? How dare you? So now they're giving themselves permission to follow their heart. Now that we're self-actualized, we start healing the self and the world. And I'm going to try to save you some decades, because this is what a lot of these guys that are at the top of the ladder are actually focusing on. Legacy. What are you leaving behind? It's not just about you. It's not just about having as many zeros that looks like a telephone number on your bank account. Yeah, that's nice, and everybody wants that, but profit, I equate that to eating. You don't live to eat. I mean, you want some good Whole Foods food, right? But you don't just live to go there. You want to explore, you want to expand, you want to help, you want to love. Mentoring, you don't have to be old to mentor. You're good at something. If somebody's wanting something and to be able to learn, if you're good at it, why not help? Finding your purpose. This is the one and most important thing that you can do. If you don't have a purpose, you don't know where you're going. You don't know what moves you. Creating connections. Finding the good in every situation. This does not mean negating the bad. It just means focusing on what you learned from even the mistakes or the boo-boos, whatever happened. Assuming goodwill. This is so powerful. A lot of times we think, oh, you know, the world's out to get me. It's really not. Most people are in a scotoma of sorts that they don't even notice when they cut you off because they're on their cell phone talking to whatever. Assume goodwill. Oh, whatever, you know, just moving on. I actually lost road rage after some ayahuasca and meditation. I was just like, hey, whatever. I mean, I still drive at 80, 90, but it's just for fun because I have a nice car. Knowing who you really are. This is of paramount importance as well. And as Macy said earlier, you are that part and parcel of the source. It's inside of you. Once you know who you really are, you can just move and change and create a life purposefully and intentionally. Life doesn't happen to you. You do life. And that's an interesting twist that a lot of people, you know, they're just an autopilot. Peaceful parenting, going back to center. If we are able to raise kids that are not broken, we don't have to worry. We don't have to worry about hating the state. It will go away on its own, because these kids are going to be empowered enough to realize and learn that peaceful interactions are more profitable for everybody. Man has become less aggressive and freer to express their emotions. This is a good thing. We don't have to be like always the big, but I cry in movies every single time. Like sometimes my wife just kind of like looks at me and like, ah. You know, like you become more human when you're able to know who you are. And that takes a lot of balls. Women became more confident and assertive. This is awesome, and I love that. And that was what I was telling you too. The pyramid of power goes from masculine to feminine. And that's not a bad thing. We need a little Shakti energy there going on. Society is transforming. We are becoming more conscious, more awake, finer sense of right and wrong. It's the best time to be alive, you know? Just really quickly, because I have like 2 minutes left, what it would take for companies to expand in the future, being a mission with a business, not a business with a mission. What's your mission? What's your purpose? And then find a way to fund that with your business. Continuous introspection. Why do I exist? Why am I here? Keep asking yourself that. And San Pedro kind of showed me that a lot of times we get so focused on what we're doing that we just kind of do this and forget the purpose. So reminding ourselves and getting learning partners to help you remember who you really are. You know, my wife and I do this a lot, and like the self-actualization part, like I was telling you, that's not the end, that's just the beginning. She tells me, all right, dude, step up to the game. You're messing up here. I'm like, oh, yeah. You know, a lot of times you just forget because you're just in whatever work you're doing. Moving away from fear and intimidation, moving into love and awareness. That's where we're going. Combining love and work, it can happen. You have to give yourself permission. And that's another reason why I love that Alice in Wonderland, aside from the mushrooms, right? Profit is an amazing thing because it can create, and it matters how it's made. Remember, everything comes back. How are you making money? That's important. How are we treating people? Just really quickly, police and military, the boogeyman. Most of them join to protect their kin and their country. That's just what it is. They're lied to, but they still believe they're doing the best. So if you tell them, welfare whore, whatever, they're not going to listen to you. They're just not. They're, okay, another idiot, move on, or they're going to try to hurt you or whatever. So a lot of them, they realize they've been used, but not all. If they don't realize they've been used, they're going to have all these ways to try to defend the reasons why they spanked their kids or they went to war or whatever. We need to have compassion. Peaceful parenting, supporting the kid to make choices from a place of self-love, self-respect, and integrity. That's super important. Instead of you do that, or I'm going to spank you, you little whatever. So it's okay, why did you do that? No, that's not what we do. And another thing, my little girl, she lost her iPhone. And my brother's well, did you punish her? What did you do to her? I was well, the natural repercussions of losing her iPhone are just horrible. So I guess she learned her lesson right there. I don't need to do anything else, right? And that's another thing that John Mackey always says, never punish your employees. And I'll answer questions later. Help them create an environment of mutual respect and compassion. EQ, emotional quotient. And I can't remember who said about this, but it's really important to meet their emotional safety, security, to develop it. So moving away, or not away, but healing first and second chakra and moving to a better place. No spanking, no hitting, no physical violence. Here's where I get these centers usually. So no, it does not create snowflakes. It actually creates empowered individuals, teaching them natural repercussions instead of fear, and it helps them think at a higher level. That's pretty cool. That's one of the things that I really enjoy. When we grow kids with these traits, we will not need a state. They'll be able to empathize. They will trade. They will be free. And this is just something really quickly. We go from unconscious incompetence, we don't know what we don't know, to conscious competence. I am aware of a new skill, but now I know that I don't have it. And a lot of people stop there. And then we move to conscious competence. I am aware that I know, and I'm practicing this new skill. And then you move to unconscious competence, where shit just becomes second nature. My time's up. Sorry.
Louis, great. Peaceful parenting, very important. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In a world where Antifa riots in the city streets, cops rage out of control, and the leader of the free world is a fat-ass casino owner, one event stands alone to make anarchy great again.
I actually love humanity. That is why I'm an anarchist.
Words in the building like we the ceiling, we illin'. No matter who find it appealing, I'm here and I got a feeling that we'll be dealing a lot of pain where the penicillin gets drilled in your head. That we are monsters and yeah, we come from the slums, and for months we've been pumped, but for once I am now comfortable. I want to grow, I want some more success, and I want to know that greatness can't be rushed, can't be lost, so face the bus. Feel free to hate on us, we lace them up. Dudes, we done paid them up. Keep snakes away from us and safe from us, you might wanna be. Remember when clowns used to make fun of me and that they wanna be me? See me and they run at me, I'm gonna be the greatest, yeah I wanna be, but I am not the wanna be the fakest for the sake of being played. I'm here like I never left, said to hell. Nah, cause I can't just fail, so just prepare your ears, it'll get for real. Take from here, we will never take the cell, it's grind time. My mind and my thoughts, my highs and my faults, my wins and my loss. When will I fall off? It's a test for me. You are now listening to Veracity. Yeah.
Fuck the media, fuck the banks, fuck drone strikes, fuck tanks, fuck hunger, fuck war, fuck ignoring of the poor, fuck the left, fuck the right, fuck the government. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.